The hardtop for these cars were just as well engineered. Beautifully styled, masterfully constructed, these tops transform the car into an all-weather coupe. They also provide the Pagoda's namesake with the concave styling element of their roofline. These tops usually don't need much attention or repair, but if you do need to restore one, they're not as simple as they look. Really, the most common thing might be the headliners. They can start to show some staining where the inner foam insulation breaks down. That's pretty common. And this one has been replaced, and it looks like the wood trim along the back window here has been refinished also. The headliners came in either an off-white color or beige, bamboo is what they called it, as shown here in this picture. You can also see what the original finish of the wood should look like. You'll find two pins for mounting the hardtop, one on each side. And because these tops are so heavy, it's very common to find damage on the body from people having to line it up and not doing it right. So always take a close look around where these three pins go. It's not uncommon to find dents and scratches there. Some years back, I sold a Pagoda that came with an optional ski rack made by Eckel for Mercedes. These clip into the existing side rails of the roof. These are really rare and of course add some value to the car. Another rare option is a roof-mounted storage rack, and the ultimate rare option for the hardtop is a sunroof. I've never seen one in person, but a Pagoda SL group member has one, and I think he has the storage rack option for it as well. Super rare combination. Now we'll move on to something more mundane, the trunk. Or is it? The trunks on these cars are actually an area that you'll want to check very closely, and I'll tell you why. Okay, so you open the trunk, you see the spare in its cover, the original two-piece rubber mat, as well as the factory toolkit. And in a perfect world, when you remove the mat, it should look like no one's ever taken it out before. Maybe you'll see a little surface rust over on the left, not a big deal. Over on the right, there's the factory supplied jack and wheel chock, and when you remove the mat underneath those, you may see a little more surface rust, all very common. So these photos show what is actually a very good trunk floor. In real life, when you pull back the mat, you're going to see something more along the lines of this, or this. A fair amount of surface rust that's right on the edge of worrisome. But the real important benchmark here is to make sure that you still see the steady line of spot welds here and here. Let's take a look at a reverse angle that shows them a little better. If you're looking at a car and you don't see these spot welds or they look funky, that means either the trunk floor has been replaced because of rust or because the car was hit in the back. More than half the time, this is what you're going to find when you pull back the mat. Heavy pitting that has been painted, or in some cases, sprayed over with undercoating. Neither is good, and the price should be adjusted accordingly. While you're looking in the trunk, check to see if the paint on the hinge bolts have been broken, and if so, ask why. Same with the Loctite sealant on the latch assembly. It's original if it looks like this. Sometimes really nice cars will have their original trunk seal with a date code. Pretty cool. That is, unless it's letting water in. Now it's time to take the cover off the spare and see what we've got underneath. The original equipment spare should feature a rub strip on the sidewall and are usually made by Firestone or Continental. Firestone actually had a factory in Germany that built these newfangled radial tires specifically for the Pagoda. So if you see an original Firestone Phoenix under that cover, it's a real plus. And the Continental version, that's pretty cool too. Let's get back to that toolkit. Mercedes supplied these with every SL, and they're all a little different in appearance. The material used for the outer cover was basically from whatever scraps they had left over in the upholstery department. So you may find these in leather or MB Tex and in all different colors. I actually have one that's made from the black Sun and Land canvas that was used on the convertible tops. So again, this is something that you're going to want to find with the car because replacements that are in good shape and complete usually command well over $500. You're also going to want to cross your fingers that the car comes with a good assortment of books and paperwork. Mercedes didn't just supply an owner's manual, there's also a maintenance journal, warranty card and plate, dealer directory, parts manual, one or more data cards, individual instruction manuals, booklets on safe driving, and more. If you're really lucky, you may even get the original window sticker or maybe a booklet full of service stamps. Whatever form this information comes in, it's literally worth its weight in gold. These things all tell the story of your car, and if you're lucky, you'll have enough content in front of you to figure out what that story is. Another really important part of the car that's waiting to tell you its story is the undercarriage. First, there's the obvious stuff, the mechanical and suspension parts that you can see up close. But then there's the more subtle things, like if the underside of the bumpers still show their original light ivory paint. How about the drain hole on the inner fenders, the headlight buckets, and the wiring grommets? Is the transmission support piece the same color as the body? Does it have the body number stamped onto it? How do the rocker covers look? How about the fidelity of the tiny Phillips head screws that hold them on? Do the seams below the rocker covers show any signs of rust coming through? What about at the jack points, the wheel wells? These are all reasons why it's imperative to get a good look at the undercarriage, either through pictures or in person. These are great cars. They were built to last. They deserve to be preserved and cared for if they're in good shape, or brought back into good condition if they're not. Spending time behind the wheel of a really good Pagoda is something that has a way of making you feel like you're living the best days of your life. Here's hoping you get to experience many of those days.